If you have an ecom brand and you haven't really thought through how you're structuring your homepage, it's probably worth sitting down and figuring out what you're actually trying to say on it. Not just because it will lift conversion rate or AOV, although it will help with those things, but because your homepage is basically the thesis for your entire positioning. Are you premium? Are you discount focused? Who exactly is the persona that you're speaking to? And what do they actually care about? What pain points are they trying to solve? And what outcomes are they chasing? And once you get clear on that, it doesn't just improve your performance metrics on the website, it forces clarity across your entire business. It shapes how you write ads, how you structure product pages and offers, how you price, and how you position. So in this video, I'm not going to give you a template and say just use these sections, because that's not how it works. It's not what matters. I'm going to show you the first principles behind how to think about your messaging and positioning properly, and then how you work that into sections on your website that convert and build brand. So let's get into it. So when you're building out your hero section, there's kind of a couple of things you need to consider. First of all, how many people are actually landing on the hero page and where are they coming from? Because, I mean, if they're coming directly from Google ads or something like that, if you're running meta ads, they probably aren't. There probably isn't many people who are landing on the hero section. So in that case, and it also kind of depends on what the product you're selling is. You know, if it's the case that it's a more problem solving product and it exists to solve a very specific problem, like something targeted at, like, let's say, I don't know, back pain or something like that, then you're going to want to make it much more kind of outcome focused. Whereas if it's more of a luxury brand, like this was my first ecom brand, then you're much better off going with an angle that kind of builds a feeling on a certain positioning around it. So where trends start is kind of fluffy. It's not exactly saying much, but that's kind of what we're looking for in this case. You know, we want it to feel aspirational rather than specific and matter of fact. And then in your sub copy here, you can get a little bit more specific about the mechanism of how what you described in the headline is delivered. So a small, sharp, and current data of the most in-demand designer and sportswear pieces right now. That's exactly what it does. And then this is the benefit, is that you don't have to go through pages and pages of dead stock. So like what this business is a much smaller collection of clothing, but it's hyper targeted at a very specific niche, you know. So it's like far-fetched targets pretty much anyone who's interested in designer clothes. This one is specifically for young guys 18 to 25 from the UK and Ireland who have a very specific style. So everything on the website would kind of align with what that niche is interested in. So that's kind of the benefit of it. Now this is the obvious CRO stuff, like social proof up here, star rating. You can put your top, if you have lots of SKUs, you can put the category cards up here. So you should go through your Shopify analytics and figure out actually what collections are the ones that sell the best, and put them up here. And then obviously you can put your risk reversal under here. And then this will vary as well. Like, you're going to have to decide for yourself. It's different for every brand of what two collections you should put here. In this case, there's two very distinct pathways people can take. There's high-end designer clothing, like the likes of Casablanca, D-Squared and stuff like that. And then there's sportswear, which is like Nike and stuff. So yeah, that's one way of doing the hero. Obviously, there is lots of different ways you can do it. And like the main thing here is that you need to think about who your customer is and how you can help them get closer to a purchase here. You know, the kind of the layout and the structure, this is a good one, but again, this can change depending on the company. So next of all is your first shopping opportunity. So this might be a little bit deceiving in this case, because it's shown an Instagram feed, but there's a very specific reason for that. Like, actually what you want to do is just give people an option to buy the things that they're most likely looking for. And the reason we structured it in this way is because our brand was originally very Instagram heavy, you know. So like the way a lot of the sales came organically, we had a big following on Instagram, and often the path that people would take is they would see a feed post on Instagram that looks something like this, and they said, I want to buy that, and then they go onto the website to buy it. So I don't recommend you just put posts from Instagram on here usually, unless it makes sense. But that was the correct move in this case, because that was the journey people were typically taking. You know, they seen this on Instagram, they decided they wanted it, they clicked on the profile, and then they saying, okay, that's the product I saw, and there's how I can buy it down in the bottom corner here, and then they click on it and then they can buy it. So this first one is purely so people can find what it is most likely that they wanted to buy when they came onto the website in the first place. So usually for a lot of brands, I go with something like this. We added this one as well. This is just kind of this is another version, so this is for the people who didn't necessarily see something exactly. They just wanted to see what was new and current, because that was typically the reason people came to this brand to buy stuff, because they didn't want to kind of have to figure out for themselves what was popular and make their own decisions. They wanted a trusted source where they knew that pretty much everything that was being sold through that source was current and new, and was gaining traction. So that's what we tried to do with the copy here, and then we added some tags to give confidence in that, like, this is genuinely what's hot right now. So yeah, I'd go with 1 to 2 kind of opportunities to help people buy the things that they're most likely to be looking for after the hero section. Then next of all is the UGC. So at this point, you need to get some trust in, and I mean, there is a way of doing this so it doesn't look cheap, because I mean, that's kind of like the most common misconception with UGC, is that it looks cheap. And you're not wrong that it's very easy to make UGC look cheap, but there's also a way to make it look expensive. So if you look at what we have here, so we have like the names of the people who bought it. There's the image up in the top right corner. It's kind of like the Instagram format, so it feels very native. And if you look at the pictures themselves, they're pretty bad. But we have the product linked as well. So this is another thing we've been trying to do a lot lately, is group together content that is engaging and interesting, and then pair with that an actual shopping opportunity. So the good part about the UGC and even the Instagram stuff up here is that it gives real world context to the product, and it builds trust. So it's like you can kind of do the two with one, because people do see, okay, this is a real company, they do ship, here's their branded boxes, and here's the actual products that I'm seeing, and then they get to see what it looks like in hand, and then they also get to see the stock images right here, and then you could click on that and then you can buy it. So that's important too. And then make sure you get all your scroll really nice and clean here as well. So this is typically the way we do it. You see, like, a default kind of scroll functionality on Shopify is that it's kind of like glitchy, and it just like stays in place and stuff. So you want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Also try and line up the scroll with the other sections, so everything kind of snaps into a grid here. That's important. And then the next thing we want to go with is the category cards. So you'll kind of want to look at what the most popular categories are, and this can change seasonally, especially with a clothing brand. Like this was the last one we landed on when we were doing winter, and you can add a kicker up above. And again, like, try not to just say, try to get specific about how your offering is actually different when you're writing the copy. The copy is the most important thing for stuff like this. So again, like, we're trying to drive home the point I previously discussed. The actual offering, what's different about this brand to other ones, is that it's a tight selection. We're not putting down pages of stuff that no one will ever buy. Like, it's all stuff that speaks to specifically a very specific persona. So like, that's exactly what the copy says here. And then also another thing is the micro animations. If you want to build like a luxury style page, all of this stuff is really important. These little bits of polish, see the way it raises a little bit, and it also decreases in opacity. We have this everywhere. We have this all over here too. And even here, this is like a glass effect with a hover. So yeah, I mean, people don't pick up on everything, but like, the attention to detail like this, it's what happens. It's when people browse it and they feel how tight a website is like this. They don't subconsciously process the details themselves. They just notice this feels unusually tight and premium and luxurious, and there's a lot of benefits to that, especially if you're selling high value goods. If you're selling high value goods, it's going to help with conversion rate, and if you aren't, it helps with pricing power. That's when you can start testing pricing and stuff like that, when you have a tight premium feeling brand. Now this is more UGC. Again, the UGC works really well, so we're trying to double down on this a lot, but we're just trying to use different formats, so it doesn't feel monotonous, and also showing kind of real world brand presence for this is very important, because we're selling like high-end designer clothes like Canada Goose and stuff. So one of the most common thoughts is this fake, because there's a lot of websites that sell fake stuff, and also through Instagram, which was how we started, just reselling on Instagram, there's a lot of fakes. So that's something you have to overcome. So if we can show genuine big followers who have used the brand and their follower count down here, that works really well. And then this also plays into a kind of community feel, and encourages people to post and share and feel like they're part of a movement when they buy from Bunker. So this does kind of, the hashtag and stuff kind of plays back into generating more UGC that we can then use too. Then t-shirts, another category card. Now reviews, so like, obviously it's good to go with like the timestamp reviews at the bottom of the product page, but it's also good to handpick some reviews. And so something we do like before we start building a website is build out a persona and we figure out what is it that people actually care about, like in the reviews, in surveys, what ads resonate, what exactly is it that people say that they care about in their own language, and then try and find reviews that directly target one of the things that resonates with people. So let's say they care about fit and quality, they care about it being legit, obviously. So like these are all things we figured out were important. This is another thing as well. They want to have stuff that other people don't have. They want it to be real, the fit, also stuff that they can't get anywhere else. And then obviously delivery time is really important. So these have been very well thought through, and when you see stuff like this from really high on the websites, that is the kind of level of thought and attention they pay to every bit of copy, so it's super important that you're thinking this stuff through. A lot of people think, oh, let's just add a review section, let's just add a UGC section, but it's not the section itself that performs and gets the result. What performs is the content inside the section, so like the section, a review section is just a container for content, and what will actually decide whether the section converts or not is what content you put in it. So just remember that as well. More category cards. This is more of a brand building one, so obviously this doesn't really have a direct impact on conversion, but it is stuff that's worth thinking about, because especially in crowded markets, this is the stuff that separates you. It helps you to occupy space so that when people think of the offer, it becomes synonymous with your brand. If you think a cola drink, you think Coca-Cola. So that's all because of brand building. It's association of kind of aspiration with what you're trying to build, so that stuff does help, and it does matter. And then this is kind of a benefit section as well. So this is going to vary a lot from brand to brand. But again, like, you don't want to go with generic stuff. You want to say, what do people genuinely care about? So when we first started, like, we done a lot of Dublin cash delivery. So people could buy and they'd have it same day. And this was like a super competitive market. You're trying to compete against brands like Farfetch and Louisa Via Rome, these massive e-commerce giants, who have insane terms. So you have to say, what can we compete with them on? And one of our big advantages was we started in Dublin. There was a lot of people in Dublin who bought from us, and we had an office there, so we could deliver our items to them same day. That's something we can compete on that the big brands can't, so we have to use that to our advantage, even though it seems a little bit unorthodox, So just what I'm saying is, like, don't think about, just fast shipping, free returns. Do you have any advantages, especially if you're trying to compete against bigger brands, that bigger brands genuinely can't compete with you on? So this stuff is really important as well. Again, like, you're not just trying to put down a benefit section. You're trying to think, what are the genuine benefits of shopping with our brand versus other brands, because at this level, this is the homepage, it's not the product page. So you want to think about the benefits of using your brand as a whole and not specific products, So, and then obviously we have next day, DPD UK and IE. And then buy now, pay later is obviously really important as well, because the likes of Farfetch and stuff don't do that. So that was uncommon as well, especially in Ireland where we're based. Then this is just the brands we sell, pretty basic, Then gift cards. This was another advantage we had. So we had like physical gift cards that we would sell in Ireland, and that was a great gift that people could give, And this, like, littering these things across like brands like this where they have high SKU counts, especially for clothing brands, is great, because it's like, I'll show you like the version that we have on the product page, because it's pretty good. So it's like, if people don't know what to buy, like, let's say they're down here, we have not sure what to get them. So like, this is solving the objection of, I'm trying to buy a present and I don't know what to buy, so that's a good one if you have lots of SKUs and it is a product that people would commonly buy as a present. Now, comparison table. Again, do not just say, I'm going to create a comparison table and generate something from ChatGPT. It's not the comparison table itself that gets the results. It's the content of the comparison table, So like, this is obviously by far the biggest advantage of shopping with us against mainstream retailers, because people do need like a genuine reason, So like, this is all of the kind of stuff that like we do that the mainstream retailers genuinely don't do, because you have to remember, people aren't just going to see, oh, they have a comparison table, I'm going to buy now. They're going to read it and say, does it actually make sense for me to buy something from here, or should I just go to a mainstream retailer? So like, endless pages of dead stock, that's one of the biggest ones. Curated selection, that's obviously one of the biggest ones. The UGC, Dublin cash delivery, below RRP, like, this is all stuff that you cannot get from the likes of Farfetch, And then obviously your FAQs. But Do not just say, I'm going to create an FAQ section and put down how long the shipping take and stuff like that. Maybe that would be one, but you need to work out what are the actual genuine questions that people ask that stop them from buying. So go into your customer support tickets, look at your Instagram DMs. What are people genuinely asking? So like that was like the biggest question we got: is the stuff real? So like these are all like the actual questions we got ordered from best to worst. Not from best to worst, from most common to least common. So that stuff was really important. And then building on by Beyond Fall, that's our current agency. You can check that out if you want. Doesn't matter. It's our TRO brand building agency. There's a link in the bio. But yeah, hopefully you're getting some value from this regardless. And then for the cart here, so we like to keep it nice and simple. I'm just going to take these out because we have some logic built into the cart. So basically the way this works, you'll see they disappeared here, but we have some add-ons in here, and it's like, so there's just two really basic things that will go with pretty much any order. And then if you were to add this one, it'll disappear. Then if you were to add this one again, it'll disappear. So there's ways of getting your add-ons and stuff in without making it feel overly salesy and stuff like that, and then just basic, what's the biggest objection, what's the biggest hesitation at this stage? It's returns, of course. It's a clothing brand, so that's what went in there. So yeah, there you go. That's how we build homepages for luxury clothing brands. Hopefully it's applicable to some other brands too, and you got some value. Make sure to subscribe if you found this useful. We're going to be posting lots of videos breaking down e-commerce pages and stuff like that. Thanks for watching, and see you guys later.